Me parece que ya estás transmitiendo en dirección. No podemos ver a los demás.
En YouTube, los que están conectados.
Lo vamos a ver.
Yo creo que sí, vamos a ver.
Esto ya está.
Ya están. Buenos días, maestros. Estamos comenzando el webinar. Vamos a, como siempre, a pedirles que a través del chat nos indiquen si nos escuchamos bien, si nos vemos bien, si ya tenemos quórum. Pedirles que a través del chat nos indiquen si nos escuchamos bien, si nos vemos bien, si... No.
No está el YouTube.
Sí.
¿Dónde está Ram?
Okay.
¿Este?
Ah, sí, ya están. 48.
Y ya, César, yo me cambié a YouTube y ya te estaba escuchando también allá, ¿eh?
Sí, ¿verdad? Estamos bien. Hecho, pues. Entonces vamos a comenzar. Como siempre, agradecerles a todos la participación. Nuevamente, saludar a nuestras autoridades de educación normal, que seguramente, como siempre digo, están ahí algunas, a nuestros enlaces en este tema del inglés, saludarlos, y a ustedes, los maestros, que al día de hoy ya están como parte de la comunidad normalista, darle la bienvenida a este webinar que yo creo que voy a coincidir con mis compañeros que me acompañan aquí, que ahorita voy a presentar. Es el webinar con mayúsculas porque pues tenemos varios temas y varias noticias que yo creo que van a recibir ustedes con muy buen agrado, entre los cuales está pues que ya terminamos la semana pasada con la contratación de los maestros en todas las entidades. Únicamente nos falta correr ya la prelación nacional para poder ya tener a los 646 docentes en las escuelas normales. Esto pues nos da mucha satisfacción porque justo vamos a comenzar con la totalidad de los maestros contratados ya en este nuevo semestre. La intención principal de este webinar pues es darles a conocer también ya el currículum elaborado por Ben Knight desde Cambridge y platicar un poco sobre los contenidos ya específicos desarrollados en el currículum. También comentarles que hemos mandado a sus autoridades y a sus enlaces un documento, es un pequeño documento que le llamamos orientaciones curriculares para el tema del inglés, que les va a permitir conocer, si no a detalle, sí algunas orientaciones que les damos desde acá, desde la DGESP, para poder llevar a cabo los cursos, las evaluaciones y al final del semestre la consigna de calificación por cada curso. También vamos a aprovechar este webinar para comentar sobre los materiales, los libros de texto que Cambridge ha elaborado de manera personal para las normales. Es un libro customizado que va a permitir tener a cada alumno todo el material por un bajo precio, que queremos también organizarnos de la mejor manera para que todas las normales puedan, si es que así lo desean, como siempre hemos dicho, es una propuesta, si es que así lo desean, tener este material allá en las escuelas normales. Y por último, también comentarles que también hemos mandado un oficio a sus autoridades dando a conocer el lanzamiento de la plataforma de DGESPE a través de CEVIE, de nuestro centro virtual. Es una plataforma de formación continua y fortalecimiento del perfil de egreso para los alumnos, en donde ustedes van a encontrar como comunidad normalista cursos que les permitan eso, profesionalizarse, seguir formándose en temas diversos y que estarán funcionando a partir de la demanda. Es decir, cada mes estaremos ofertando de 1 a 2 cursos de interés general y que a partir de la demanda que ustedes vayan teniendo de estos cursos pues, se irán abriendo. Asimismo, en esa misma plataforma tendremos un repositorio digital que para empezar ustedes ya van a poder encontrar ahí directamente los webinars que se han tenido. Este aparecerá posteriormente en esa plataforma, para que puedan ingresar en el momento que ustedes quieran. Además de que ya lo tienen ustedes en sus correos, podrán consultarlos directamente de la plataforma. Y tendrán también un vínculo a otra plataforma de inglés. Está siendo trabajada por EduSoft y EduTest, y esta plataforma, pues al menos a nosotros nos encantó por toda la flexibilidad que tiene en términos de contenido, en términos de estrategias didácticas y de navegación incluso. Es una plataforma que van a poder trabajar con los niveles básicos, desde A0 hasta los niveles más altos, con un nivel C1, con actividades didácticas bastante interesantes. Hay una herramienta que ustedes van a encontrar en esa plataforma que pues le hemos denominado tipo Lego, porque les va a permitir a ustedes ir armando prácticamente sus planeaciones, sus cursos, con todos los materiales que van a encontrar en esta plataforma. Es una plataforma muy noble y que pronto ya ustedes podrán tener acceso a ella, que les permitirá también trabajar las horas extracurriculares, les permitirá tener también el soporte que les hace falta en los laboratorios de idioma con este software, y yo creo que va a ser muy benéfico para el fortalecimiento del inglés. Me acompañan, como les decía, en este webinar está el maestro Rubén Enríquez. No sé, voy a hacer un paneo, ¿se puede hacer? No mucho, ¿verdad? Bueno, ahorita los van a conocer, ya los han conocido, pero los van a ver físicamente. Rubén Enríquez, la maestra Quetzali Sánchez, el ingeniero Ramsés Horta y el licenciado Cruz Castro. El licenciado Cruz Castro viene por parte de Cambridge para platicarnos también un poco sobre la logística para este acervo y materiales con los que vamos a contar. Bien, para no alargarme más, voy a cederle... perdón, en otros lados, aquí están físicamente ellos, pero van a estar con ustedes compartiendo desde Michoacán. Está el doctor Julio César Leiva, que es coordinador curricular de la DGESPE, va a dar un marco de toda la estrategia de fortalecimiento de las normales en el tema curricular, y desde Reino Unido nos acompaña Ben Knight, quien estará compartiendo con ustedes todos los contenidos de este nuevo currículum. Entonces, ahora sí, agradecerles nuevamente la participación. Yo estaré aquí al pendiente de este webinar. Les mando un cordial saludo y seguimos atentos a cualquier duda que ustedes puedan tener. Le voy a ceder la palabra al doctor Julio César Leiva. Doctor, todos suyos. Gracias.
Gracias, César. Gracias. No sé si ahí se ve la transmisión, mi transmisión con los colegas en YouTube. Ramsés.
Sí.
Perfecto. Bien, pues buenos días a todos. Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Ben Knight from United Kingdom. Today, well, as Cesar said, I am Julio César Leiva. I am the coordinador de diseño curricular de la GESPE. And the agenda is going to be divided in 3 moments. The first one was the presentation of Cesar Romero. In the second part, I am going to give you a general overview of the estrategia de fortalecimiento y transformación de escuelas normales. And the third moment, Ben Knight from Cambridge University is going to explain to you the structure of English courses and the content and the learning activities. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you a general presentation, a PowerPoint presentation with some slides that explain the general overview of this strategy of strengthening of escuelas normales. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Here we go. So please let me know if you can see it, first of all. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for me to explain the whole thing. So I need some support. So please, Cesar or Ruben, please tell me if they can see, if our teachers can see this presentation.
Sí, sí se ve bien.
All right, thank you. Well, maestros and Ben, you already have this presentation in English, and it is going to be available for you guys in the HESPE website. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do now is just tell you a little bit about this project in which you are now part of this Escuelas Normales community. And some of you, or maybe most of you, don't know too much about Escuelas Normales because you studied or your studies might have been in other universities. And so let me tell you, first of all, that this project, this estrategia de fortalecimiento a escuelas normales started almost 3 years ago and started this way. It is very important for you English teachers that you are part of one community that is called Escuelas Normales, and that Escuelas Normales are all over Mexico, from the north part in Tijuana, Baja California, to the southeast in Yucatan and Campeche. And we are more than 263 escuelas normales, public escuelas normales. And in total, we are almost 460 escuelas normales, including the escuelas normales, private escuelas normales. And it is important for you to know that having a project, a general project, a common project of teacher training, it was very difficult. It is very difficult because our country is so different. It is not the same thing living in the southeast or in the states of I don't know, Zacatecas or Michoacan, to the life in the north part of Mexico, in Baja California or Baja California Sur. So we are so different that it was very important for us to have a view or to have a consensus of one single project for our country, one single project of training teachers for this country that is so heterogeneous and so different, not just culturally, but also economically and in education programs. So it might be, for some of you, it might be just one simple detail, but talking about education policies, it is a major project, a major national project in the teacher training field. Well, the second slide. This slide shows you that you guys are part of a community of more than 11,000 teachers in Mexico, and your students, or you are going to be teaching almost 90,000 students all over Mexico. As you can see in this slide, we have 263 escuelas normales públicas, and among those escuelas normales, we have 16 rural escuelas normales. Some other data that it is important for you to know is that we have 103 escuelas normales that offer kindergarten, we have this program for kindergarten teachers, preescolar, and indigenous bilingual program, which it is offered in primary schools and in kindergarten schools. We have 138 escuelas normales that offer primary undergraduate programs, 93 escuelas normales that offer secondary programs, and I don't know if you already guys know that secondary school programs there are 10 secondary school programs. One of them is Spanish, Español, biology, chemistry, telesecundaria, physical, I mean physics. What is the other one? History, biology, and geography. So we have 10 programs that are part of this of the secondary undergraduate programs. And we have 23 escuelas normales that offer these indigenous bilingual programs in preescolar and primary. And basically, they are on this stage where there is some population that speaks one of these indigenous languages in Mexico, Maya or Otomí, Mazahua, etc. We have 16 escuelas normales rurales públicas, 52 escuelas normales offer this undergraduate program, inclusive education, and 36 escuelas normales along Mexico offer physical education. So in total, we have 16 programs, and you are going to be part of those programs. And well, as you can see, some of you are going to be part of these escuelas normales that offer pre-scholar programs. Some of you are going to be part of these 138 escuelas normales that offer primary. Some of you might be part of this community of secondary programs, which are 93. Or some of you might be working in these rural escuelas normales, and some others will be working in those escuelas normales that are offer inclusive or physical education. So this is the community that you are going to be part of from now on for the following 30 years, maestros. Well, what do we call a strategy of strengthening, as you can see, a strengthening and transformation of the escuelas normales? For more than 30 years, escuelas normales and basic education were working apart. Some of them in the teacher training programs, and the other ones applying the programs that Secretaría de Educación Pública, the Ministry of Education, have for those kids, niñas. And but let me tell you one simple detail that makes a big difference. In many escuelas normales, don't have the resources or don't have the programs that are taught in primary schools or basic schools in Mexico. So the content and the subjects teachers were teaching for in these teaching training programs were out of date according to the programs that teachers and children in Mexico were studying. So what we do a few years ago in the past administration and this one, the one of El Dr. Mario Chavez Campos. So what we did was different actions to keep in touch with this different, not just teachers, students, and principals of escuelas normales, so we can see what were the problems to solve and to face for the following years. So based on that information, we could make a big project to how can I say it? I don't know if it is proper to revitalize the academic life of escuelas normales. So what we do is in 2014, we make different forums, consultation forums for teachers, so they could bring information about the problems to be solved in the following years. In 2015, as you can see in these slides, the different escuelas normales of the 32 states of Mexico sent some of the evaluations about their training programs. In between 2016 and 2018, those evaluations were contrasted with more than 100 visits to escuelas normales. So what we did is the curriculum team of the GESPE visited in different moments different escuelas normales. In total, we made more than 100 visits along Mexico. Besides that, we had 8 national meetings with authorities of the escuelas normales and authorities of the school programs in the different states. Almost 50 virtual forums, and we did a poll with 600 participations and more than 100 workshops. So what we did, we worked for almost a year with that information, tons of information, videos, audios, evaluations, and many information that was concentrated in the GESPE, so we could come up with one project for the nation. So in the end, based on that information, we got to a national consensus based on five actions that I'm going to show you now. This slide shows you this national consensus based on not just the information, but all the visits and all the forums we did with different escuelas normales actors. The first one, as you can see, it is the pedagogical transformation according to the new educational model. Don't forget that this new educational model in Mexico came up in 2016. And the last version, the formal version, came up in 2017. So what we did is make a project or this national consensus to take it into account for the teacher training programs that are going to start in 2018. The second action or consensus is to pay attention to indigenous and intercultural education. The third point, it is to have English in all undergraduate programs. And as you can see, in this consensus led us to hire those almost or more than 600 teachers that you are part of it already. Point 4 is the professionalization of the teaching staff in the escuelas normales. That means that is not also having new programs for the following generations. These new programs are defined for the profiles of our teachers community. So point number 5, focus on the programs, the courses, and all different actions that we need to come up with in order to help our teaching staff in the escuelas normales. And that means not just courses, diplomados, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, and some other resources that they might need in order to apply properly the new programs. Number 5 is very important. This consensus that transformed into one very big action, it is having synergy with universities and other research centers. And since 2016, we are making agreements with different universities so they can help or they can work together with escuelas normales staff, especially with those who are part of what we call cuerpos académicos. I don't know if you know the concept. Cuerpos académicos. It is the group of teachers that have a research profile, that do research, of course, and publish the results of those research. And so this small team of teachers, they registered in one platform of the Ministry of Education, and those teachers represent part of the strength of the escuelas normales in the research field. So this synergy, it is based basically on doing research and help our programs to be up to date, having new knowledge, especially new knowledge, and based on research and papers and books that are written to support the content. And point number 6 is it is based on helping and supporting escuelas normales who that have best practices, something that we call institutional excellence. So as you can see, the different meetings, the different information, and the different visits that we did to escuelas normales help support this national consensus, and this is the strategy. The strategy of strengthening and transforming the escuelas normales is based on these 6 points. All right. Well, what we have done so far. Well, I don't know if you know that we have these mobility academic programs, and so far we have almost 104. As you can see here, let me see. Let me show you. There we go. As you can see here, we have already 1,400 students, teachers, and principals of escuelas normales in mobility to different countries: France, Spain, national mobility, and some have gone to 9 countries of Iberoamerica: Spain, Brazil, Cuba, Costa Rica, Colombia, etc. And the other country we have agreements with is Canada. So in total, we have 10 programs. So as you can see, this strategy is not something that we are going to do or we are planning to do. This strategy is something we already did to demonstrate that escuelas normales are ready, are prepared to have these programs as higher education institutions of higher education. Well, what do we have in research? Let me tell you that in the past in the past 3 years, we started, or we had, let me see, we had 135 academic teams, or research academic teams. Remember this terminology that we use called cuerpos académicos, CA, that are registered in a national platform. So we already have, we had 135. In 2017, we increased the number to 163 cuerpos académicos, and today, in 2018, we have 198 cuerpos académicos. And from those cuerpos académicos, there are 3 categories. The ones that are registered, as you can see over here, the ones that are registered. And then there is a second category, the one that we call in consolidation. And the third category, we have consolidated cuerpos académicos. So we have non-consolidated académicos, but we passed from nine cuerpos académicos in consolidation cuerpos académicos. We went to 16, and now we have 28. That means 198 cuerpos académicos registrados, and 28 out of those 198 cuerpos académicos are in consolidación. And now you, as English teachers, we are going to be able to be part of those cuerpos académicos. But in order to do so, you need to, in case you don't have it, you need to study a master's degree or a PhD degree, and you need to study in those graduate degrees that do research. So this is very important. You need to come up. You need to make a research profile in order to be part of these cuerpos académicos. And when you are part of those cuerpos académicos, let me tell you that there is a sea of opportunities. That means that you can study in those quality programs, this term that we use in Mexico. You can have scholarships to study in Mexico or outside Mexico with a scholarship. So if you want to be a research English teacher, you can do so if you work together with other teachers from your escuelas normales. All right, I'm going to move on to this new slide. So in 2017, there were new references from the National Curriculum Design in basic education. One of them, very important reference was the new model for basic education and something that we call Aprendizajes Clave document. It is very important for you, maestros, to keep in mind that these documents are your guidelines. It is not enough to have a very important and quality profile as English teachers. You need to know the system. You need to know what the Ministry of Education does here in Mexico, and you need to know, if you want to be very close to your students and to the educational system, you need to keep in mind, you need to learn by heart the educational model for basic education, and you need to learn by heart the Aprendizajes Clave document. Those documents are in the webpage of the GESPE, and they are, of course, in the Ministry of Education, la SEP. So you need to study them. Besides having a very important profile and having this webinar of training for the new programs, you need to know and you need to keep in mind those documents. The other ones, the other references for the curriculum design at Escuelas Normales was the inclusion and equity strategy. And you are part of this, of the next reference, which is the National English Strategy. And a strategy that is for the following 20 years in order to have in 20 years bilingual teacher training programs. And from those references, we came up with the strategy for strengthening and transformation of the escuelas normales. Well, the next slide shows you that we think we agree with other specialists that the success of these programs starts with your profiles, with very high academic profiles. And the other idea that I want to share with you is that we need to have a lifelong training. It is not enough just to have a licenciatura and that's it. Or it is not enough to be very good at your area of or your discipline. In this case, English. So it's not enough just to know English or to have studied English and to have a very good profile on that. We need to keep in mind that this lifelong training, it is for every single teacher at escuelas normales. So if you have licenciatura, bachelor's degree, you need to come to a master's degree, to a PhD degree. And that is not enough. We need to do research, and then we need to do, we need to be part of this curriculum design. So it's not enough just to be a classroom teacher. Now, the challenges for you as new teachers are to increase your, or to broaden your profile and do research and do curriculum design. And for that reason, we are going to have different courses for you. According to the location, might be on-site or off-site. What we call synchronous or asynchronous programs. By duration, they might be from hours, like this webinar, weeks, like as you can see that we are having a diplomado the Universidad Virtual del Estado de Michoacán. It is a diplomado on competences, and it'll last a few weeks. There are some courses that will take months and years. And according to the validity, we may have formal or informal courses, mandatory or non-mandatory courses. And the cost, some of them are going to be paid, or some of them are going to be free of charge, as the one that is going to start next Monday. And according to the geography, it might be national, international, with escuelas normales, or you might be having courses in other universities or research centers. Well, some of these professional development courses for the 2018, the first one that is going to start, and I hope you are now in the list, Teacher Competencies Diploma. Then we are going to have a course in quality research, and that will be basically for those teachers who are going to teach the Trayecto Professional Practice. Then the other one is in virtual learning environments, and the fourth one, it is in curriculum design. The first one, it is the one that all of you have to take. So you need to please keep in touch with your with the principal of your escuela normal to see if you are part of that group that are going to take it. And that, even though it's not mandatory, I suggest every one of you would be part of that group. And we have other courses. In this case, the following slides are in Spanish. Es un curso integral de consolidación de habilidades docentes, virtual environments, portafolio de evidencias, the teacher and his or her professional identity, the reading. There are some courses based on specifically academic courses. Some others are from literature. Some of them are for general culture, etc. And some of them are based on science. Well, I'm going to. I'm getting to the end of my presentation. This slide shows you something that I said before. That, as you can see, this is a timeline of what happened in basic education, which is in this site. No, there were different curriculum reforms in Educación Básica, in basic education, while there were other curriculum reforms in escuelas normales. And as you can see, they don't match. They don't always match. So we saw that in 2018, as you can see it here, as the big moment in which basic education and teacher training programs in escuelas normales could come along this would be the first time in more than 30 years that this basic education and the programs at escuelas normales could come together. And you maestros are part of this process, this historical process, and that is the reason you are here. That is the reason you are hired to strengthen the academic development of the escuelas normales. One thing, let me show you just one single detail. Let me tell you that, for instance, on the graduate of secondary programs, there was a reform in 1999 in escuelas normales. But in basic education in 2016, in 2006, there was education reform in secundaria in basic education. And then in 2011, another curriculum reform in basic education on secondary. And nothing happened from 1999 to 2011. And nothing happened from 1999 until 2018. So almost 20 years passed after the plan of 1999 in secondary started to the new programs in 2018. So as you can see, this is a very important moment in the national curriculum design. Well, I'm about to finish because you are going to work with Ben Knight from Cambridge, and just let me show you some information that might be important. Don't forget that the curriculum design in 2018, it is based on learner-centered curriculum. It is based on competencies, on this approach on competencies, and has flexibility. Flexibility is a very important part of this new curriculum in 2018. And all plans of study, all programs have something that we call trayectos formativos. So we might say in English, the teacher training routes. The first one is called Bases Teórico-Metodológicas para la Enseñanza, in which we have new courses. Some of them are like inclusive education. Some of the courses that you are going to find in this training route is inclusion education, equity. Let me tell you what is the other one. Inclusion and socio-emotional education. So those are some of the courses that you are going to find in the Maya curricular or in this plan. And the other one is neuroscience. Neuroscience is one of the other courses that you might be finding in this training route. The green route, the green training route, it is the most important one. It might not be the most important, but it's the one that is the broadest of all. And it means, it is called Formación para la Enseñanza y el Aprendizaje. There are 20 to 22 courses that are part of this training route. And in the secondary programs, those 20 or 22 courses are based basically on the discipline and its didactics and pedagogic support. So it is the most important part of it, and you need to know it so you can put together, so you can link what you do in English with what the students are developing in those training routes and those specific courses. The orange training route, it is what we call práctica profesional, professional practice. And let me tell you that this training route is very important for one single reason. It is in this training route in which the students and the teachers develop research competencies. So they are going to study ethnography. They are going to work with data. They need to work with data, come up with conclusions, make hypotheses, having projects, and they are going to be in this professional practicas professional training route. They are going to practice in real context. So they are going to visit since first semester to the 8th semester. They are going to be working with escuelas of basic education, and they are going to start with 5 or 6 days at semester to 32 weeks in the last semester. So gradually they are going to be working at those escuelas in basic education. And the last part of the Maya curricular, the last training route of the plan, it is optional courses. I'm sorry for this P that I put here. It's a no. This cursos optativos, optional courses. It is something that the Escuela Normal has to design with his academic staff. And those optativos, those optional courses, are part of the training programs, but it is part of the flexibility of the curriculum. That means, maestros, that means that your community has to detect or have an evaluation of the context and define or decides what kind of course you need to design to solve a problem or a need that you see or you detect in your community or your context. So there are, in some licenciaturas, in some programs, you might have 4 optional courses, and in some licenciaturas, especially licenciaturas for secondary schools and for physical education, you are going to find 5 optional courses. And that means almost 400 hours of flexibility or curriculum autonomy of escuelas normales. And you might be part of that process too. And in the end, I'm just going to show you some of the Mayas curriculares. You can find them, all of them, in the GESPE website. As you can see here in my screen, you can see you can see these trayectos formativos, these training routes. The yellow one, as you can see, social emotional development, no, as I told you before, neuroscience in the adolescents, in the teenagers age. Another course, as you can see here, is inclusive education, etc. Methodology, fundamentals of education, etc. The green guideline here, as you can see, since this is mathematics, you are going to find most of the courses are part of this mathematics discipline and its pedagogy. So as you can see, pensamiento jerárquico, etc. Then, as you can see in this purple courses, it is the optativos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 optativos. Then the orange one, it is the professional practice along the training program until the 8th semester. And the pink courses you can see here is the English courses that Ben is going to talk about. And as you see one Maya curricular, one plan, you can see the other ones. This one is from physics and educación secundaria. This one is chemistry, biology, geography, history, ethical and citizenship education. This one is very important. I invite you to take a look at this plan, because there are very interesting courses that we can choose to put them into the optional courses in other licenciaturas. English, this is the specific undergraduate program for licenciatura en inglés, and telesecundaria. And well, this is from preescolar. This one is from preescolar indígena, indigenous, preescolar program. Primary, indigenous primary, physical education curriculum, and all of them have the same areas. The yellow one, the green one. The difference between one program and the indigenous one is that indigenous programs have to learn one. They have to learn one indigenous language of the context in which the Escuela Normal is set in those states, especially the Southwest states. And well, then we have the professional practices and English. And this is the curriculum for inclusive education. As you can see here, they are the same areas. The blue one, the green one, the orange one, and the purple one, and the English courses. In the end, each program has two parts. One that is called Sintético, and the other one that is called Analítico. The first one is just a general overview. This is a Programa Sintético. It comes in the same document. Both Sintético and Analítico come in the same document. Programa Sintético shows the purposes and general description of the course. It shows the competencies of the graduation profile, which is the most important part in this curriculum. The graduation profile. That is something that you need to learn by heart, to which the course contributes. The course structure, the guidance for teaching and learning. This is important, and Ben is going to talk about it, and the evaluation suggestions. And the Programa Analítico, which is the development of the Programa Sintético. It is the same, but in this case is developed, has the competences of the learning unit. Let me tell you that each program, it is divided into learning units. Then we have the competences of the unit, the content, the learning activities, learning evidences, the performance criteria, one bibliography, which is basic and complementary, and some support resources. Most of them are web pages and videos. And this is it for my presentation. I don't know. I'm sorry, Ben, if I took a few more minutes, but I think it was important. And maestros, I really appreciate your participation in this webinar today. And as César Romero, nuestro director de área, Rubén, and the other, the GESPE staff, estamos aquí para apoyarles. We're here to, if you have any questions about it, please feel free to make any questions and to make comments or ask anything you need in order to start these new programs in the following days. So thank you for your time, and well, I'm gonna now I'm gonna give Ben. I'm going to ask Ben to continue with this webinar. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, César Romero.
Thank you, Julio. Thanks a lot. Thank you for this useful and wonderful presentation. Now we're going to hear Ben Knight talking about the curriculum specifically. Welcome, Ben. Go ahead, thanks.
Julio, for excellent presentation. It was very clear. Thank you very much. Have you got my presentation, or should I share my screen?
Well, I have it here, but in my opinion, you might share it for the rest of the teachers that are seeing it in YouTube.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, let me just get it sorted out.
All right.
Can you see it now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Great. Okay, and you can hear me clearly?
Very clear, Ben. Very clear.
Fantastic. So good morning or good afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is there in Mexico. It's great to talk to you, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity to explain a little bit about the principles and the approach and the details behind English curriculum that we have developed together with the GESPE for the Escuelas Normales. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to clarify the different levels of this English language program. So we started by doing a number of visits, going around a lot of schools, or a number of schools, and talking to a lot of teachers and pupils to get a sense of what is the potential learning level and what is the actual learning level of your students at the moment. And we designed this program of 6 semesters with the idea that most of the students are coming in either at A1.1, that's the bottom half of A1 on the CFR, or even below that. So we know that a lot of your students are starting at a very low level. And we also know that it takes time to bring them up to the target level. So for this first stage of the development of the English curriculum, the target for the end of 6 semesters, if they are on a program which has 6 semesters, would be B1.2. That means the top half of B1. And this is quite ambitious for a lot of your students and will be difficult for some of them. We recognize that for the first year and possibly for the second year. But the intention is to develop obviously the education system below and the abilities of your students so that by year 2, year 3, year 4, this becomes a realistic objective for most of your students. Now, in describing the different levels, I've put year 1, year 2, year 3, and I've put semester 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I know for some students, it won't work like this, that there are different programs. As Julio has said, a lot of programs have got different arrangements for English, and some of them will only do 3 or 4 semesters, and they will start at different times. So this is just a way to describe the different levels, and it may be for certain students that you teach, they won't actually be in semester 1 when they do the first level. They may do semester 1, A1.1, starting basic communication at a later point in the course. But you'll have all that information, as Julio says, it's on the GESPE website, and you can get it there. This is just the general approach and curriculum. I hope that is clear so far. So where did we start? When we designed this curriculum, what we were thinking about was, what do your students need English for? What are the main goals in their learning of English? And we identified 3 main areas they need English for. First, just on a personal level, to talk to other people who don't speak Spanish, to develop relationships, in other words, to meet them and to talk to them and build friendships or work partnerships, to complete transactions, which means to get things done, to buy things, to take a train somewhere, to catch a bus, and just to meet everyday needs, to talk about yourself and what you do, and to understand what other people are saying when they're talking to you. So that's the personal level, the personal environment for using English. The second area that a lot of your students need English for is, we call it community. And it's really about developing a better understanding of their own culture and other cultures around the world. So it's developing them into global citizens, people who understand how their culture is different from others and find it easier to interact with people from other countries. So this is English as a tool to become part of the world around them and to interact with that world. And then the third area, which people need English for, is for their actual work. And in this case, it's for their teaching. And to some extent, the objective of the Mexican Department of Ministry of Education is to make more schools bilingual to some extent, to make them able to use English in the school, to create an environment where English can be used, and also to use English in their teaching. Obviously, if they're teachers of English, but also for other teachers to be using some English in their teaching. And English is also important for their professional development, because for a lot of teachers, the information about how to develop as teachers is available only in English. And so they need English in order to develop professionally. Those are the 3 areas that we're focusing on in the curriculum: personal, community, and professional. Then let's just step back a little bit and look at what are the principles for teaching English that are underpinning the new curriculum. What is the approach to learning English that we are really taking in order to improve the students' achievements as they learn English? And there's a lot of research in this area, and we've looked at this research, and there are a lot of different aspects to learning English. But we've picked out and focused on 5 main principles for teaching English. Now, the first one is to focus on meaningful communication. And this is because the whole purpose of learning a language, learning English, is in order to communicate some meaning. That's why we learn the language. And so the way that we teach needs to focus on that aspect of learning English, of using English. And partly, that mean in practice, what does that mean for you as teachers? Well, one thing it means is that when you present structures, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation to your students, you need to present it in a way which is about what does it communicate. And when they practice it, they need to practice it in a way which is about communicating something. So you don't want the focus to be on the form of it, whether it's exactly the correct form. Of course, that's important. The form is important, but the priority is on the communication. Now, another way that this affects the way that you teach is the kind of feedback that you give your students. When your students are using English, do you focus your feedback on whether they've made mistakes in the form, or on whether they have been successful or not successful in communicating a meaning? So what we're saying is that your approach should be focused on whether they have been successful or not in communicating a meaning. That's the first thing to give feedback on. Of course, after that, you want to pick up on any problems they've had with form, the actual accuracy of the grammar and the vocabulary pronunciation, but the focus, the priority is on meaning. The next point is that you really have to be confident that you are teaching the English which your students really need. It's quite demoralizing for anybody learning a language to learn English and then find when they go onto the internet or they meet somebody that it's very different, that real English, to what they've learned in the classroom. So we put a lot of emphasis on trying to look at what is the English that people really use and need. And for you as teachers, that means trying to bring in, where possible, examples of authentic, real English into the classroom and into the materials you use. And I know, having visited some schools, that a lot of you as tutors are doing that. You're bringing in, either online or some other way, you're bringing in real, authentic English. And that's really, really important for your students, for their motivation. The third principle that we've based this on is the fact that students really learn by doing something, through practice. That if you explain the rules of English and how English is used, they don't really learn it. They have to actually use it. And this has a lot of impact on the way, the pedagogy, the actual methodology that you use in the classroom, so that you maximize their opportunities for using English and minimize the amount of explanation that you give. So this webinar that we're having now is really a bad model for you as teachers, because here I am talking to you and unable to give you opportunities to learn about the curriculum through doing something with it. So if I was there in Mexico with you, I would actually be doing this as a workshop so that you had activities that you could actually interact with the curriculum. But at the moment, I can only do this as explanation. But just remember, this is not a good model for teaching. The fourth principle is, and it seems obvious, is that your students learn best when they're motivated and when they're engaged. And by this, one of the things we are looking at here is, how do we keep them positive about learning? And this again relates to the idea of feedback. When students struggle to say something, the first feedback they get is a focus on the errors they've made. It can really demotivate and discourage them. And so as part of the methodology, we really recommend that you try and train yourself to think of positive feedback as the first response to your students. But another way of creating engagement and motivation is to be very focused on what are the things that your students, is to understand the things that your students are most interested in. And that, of course, is a basis for discussion and conversation with your students about their areas of interest. Another way that teachers make their students more engaged is by getting them to bring their own lives into the classroom, for designing projects and activities where they have to bring to the classroom things which are important or interesting to them. So that personalization and the opportunities for personalization are really important for motivation. The last point I would say with engagement is to make sure that when they're doing activities, where possible, to have some kind of information gap in there. If they're communicating about something where everybody knows what the answer is, then it's very difficult to create motivation to understand it. But if you can create and use activities where the person communicating knows something which the person listening doesn't have, then you're going to create a level of engagement which helps with the learning. And then the fifth point is the one that, again, as experienced teachers, you will know that all of your students are different in terms of their needs, their interests, and where they are in terms of learning English. And the great teachers that we see are those that are aware of that. They're monitoring what do different students know and what are they good at and what do they struggle with. And they have an idea of how to vary the teaching for different students, how to respond differently to their different students. So being able to differentiate your teaching according to different groups of students is really effective for being successful and helping them to learn English. There are three other things that I just wanted to mention, and one of those is the balance of skills. So when we did our needs analysis for this curriculum development, one of the things that came across clearly was that for most of your students, almost all of your students, and from the point of view of most of the teachers, the thing that matters most to them in learning English is being able to speak English. And yet that was not a large part of their classroom time. And that's partly because the teaching and development of spoken English is one of the most difficult skills. So one of the things that we've really focused on in the curriculum is to make that the priority. Speaking is the most difficult part, but it's also the most important. And that affects the way that you set up the class. And when I come to the third point on this slide, that'll be a bit clearer. So one of the things we would try to encourage is that the presentation of language, where possible, should be given as a listening activity, so that your students are used to hearing spoken English and hearing the kinds of English that is used when people are speaking, and not to get completely immersed in the world of spoken English, because there are some differences in style and even vocabulary and grammar between spoken and written English. The second point is learning autonomy. So the amount of time the student needs to go up those levels is more than the number of hours that you can provide them in the classroom. That is simply a fact. And so your students will struggle to go up those levels unless they're also learning English outside the classroom. So one of your responsibilities as a teacher is to help them learn the skills to be able to study on their own. And I think for a lot of students, this is quite difficult. If they've come from a school system or a school where that hasn't been a priority, where the students have focused on just doing what the teacher tells them to do, then they may not have the skills to study on their own and to really think about what they want and how they can improve their own learning. So within the curriculum, there is one of the strands of that is to think about how can you help them to develop their own learning. What are the skills they need? For example, how do they go about improving their vocabulary outside the classroom? And then the third point is working in pairs and groups. I know all language teachers know this is important, but we really want to emphasize how important this is. And I think particularly with teachers who are going to be teaching in primary or secondary schools, where working in pairs and groups is not always easy, you have to make an extra effort to encourage people to feel comfortable with working in pairs and groups. And the importance of this, there's two reasons why this is essential. The main reason is that speaking English is a skill. It's not just about knowledge. And skill is what you get from practice. And you can't get practice if the teacher is doing most of the talking in the class. The amount of time they spend practicing speaking English is only sufficient if you can get them working in pairs or in groups. So you're not going to be successful in developing their spoken English unless you can maximize the opportunities for them to work in pairs and groups. So we know there's a lot of challenges around that. It's not easy. You need materials that help that, but it is a priority in order to get them to be speaking English. Okay, so coming back to the actual curriculum, those were the kind of principles, the methodology, the pedagogy behind it. But coming back to the curriculum, and the curriculum is really about what you need to teach. And as I said at the beginning, there are three areas. There's the personal area, the community area, and the professional area. And within each of those areas, we have three aspects of that area. So the first one for personal is the ability to exchange personal information with someone else. So you want to tell someone else about yourself and you want to understand about them. The second area of personal use of English is around sharing instructions and procedures. You need to be able to explain to someone how to do something, or you need to understand when someone else is explaining to you how to do something. And then the third area is around participating in exchanges about everyday and immediate needs. And this is really about getting things done, whether it's shopping or traveling or other kinds of activities that you do, organizing something, planning something, those kind of everyday activities. Then in the second environment, the community environment, which is really about cultural understanding, we've broken that down into three areas. Understand your own and other cultures. The second one is to communicate impressions of different cultural issues. And then the third area is to reflect on and be able to discuss environmental and social issues. And then in the third environment, which is professional, we've broken that down into three areas: to be able to exchange information about classrooms and school activities, to talk about that, to talk about learning, to talk about whether your students are learning or how they're learning and how you're teaching. And then the third area is exchanging information about work. So about your professional development, about your career, about your work opportunities and issues and problems. So within the curriculum, there are 3 units for each level, and each unit relates to these 3 environments. So unit 1 will be about the personal environment, unit 2 will be about the community environment, and unit 3 will be about the professional environment. And then inside that unit, there are 3 broad learning objectives. And each of those learning objectives relates to the 3 areas that you can see in this diagram underneath the 3 environments. But they will be different for every level. So at level 1, in the first unit, which is the personal unit, the first learning objective will be about exchanging personal information. And the second learning objective will be about sharing instructions, procedures, etc. I'll show you some examples so that you can understand what I mean, but that's the general structure of the curriculum. Well, here's an example. So here we're looking at semester 1, and we're looking at learning unit 1. So this is the first unit in the first semester, the first level. And because it's learning unit 1, it's personal. And in the personal environment, we have 3 different social practices. The first one is exchange personal information. But what does that mean for semester 1, the first semester? Well, what that actually means for that semester is exchanging personal information when meeting someone. So it's about meeting people, greeting them, finding out their name, their telephone number, their nationality, where they're from, that kind of basic information on meeting people. The second one, the second social practice, is the sharing instruction and procedures. And what does that mean for semester 1, level 1? Well, in that level, in that semester, it's focused on following basic directions for transport. Where can you get a bus? Where can you get a ticket? How much does a ticket cost? That basic information for travel. And then the third social practice is participating in exchanges about everyday and immediate needs. And for semester 1, This is the example is talking about places where people live. So being able to talk about your home, your house, or your town, just in a very basic way, because of course we are talking about the first level. So that's the broad structure, and those are the learning objectives for the first unit. And what does that mean in practice? So we've tried to provide a lot more detail about what that actually means in terms of English language. Now, there's a lot of detail here, and we've tried to, in some ways, balance between giving you a lot of detail and guidance so that you're very clear about what your students need to learn, but on the other hand, leaving some space for you to adapt it to your particular students and your particular situations, because you will have a better understanding of what's most important for your students, and so you need some space to adjust to your particular students and their interests. Now, in this particular case, I'm looking at the third learning objective in the first unit of the first level, which was talk about places where people live. And we've got here some very specific things that they should be able to do by the end of that first level. So for example, they should be able to name the different types of home, a house or an apartment, or some rooms and furniture in their house, whether it's a living room, a bed, sofa. Now, in these lists of examples of words, we've put etc. for each list. And that's because you can change these or adapt these to your particular students. You may decide that for your students, for example, a dining room is not really that important, but something else is, the kitchen, for example. So most of these learning outcomes here are verbs, are being able to do something like describe a living space or contrast different homes. But we also put in some guidance on the particular vocabulary or grammar that will be needed for this kind of conversation. So obviously for the first one here, there's a vocabulary focus on something like adjectives to describe rooms, whether they're bright or comfortable, small, big. And one grammar focus, something to think about in terms of grammar at this level, is using a or an for singular objects and using s to indicate plural objects. We have, if you look, I think at the bottom of that page, it's just not very clear on my screen at the moment, but there is something about pronunciation. So what we're saying here with the focus is, these are things that you can focus on if it's something which is useful for your students, if it's important for your students. Okay, so if we look now at the second unit for level 1, the second unit is about community and cultural awareness and understanding. And we said there are 3 areas within that, 3 social practices. The first one is recognize information about cultural diversity. And so at level 1, what this means is to talk about where people come from and their cultural identity. The second social practice is assess impressions on artistic expressions from different cultures. And this is talk about cultural activities. And the third one is describe different environments. Now, obviously, at this level, it's quite difficult to understand what is meant by those learning objectives, because they're quite high level. And that's why it's really important to go to the next level, which has the particular language that they need. So we take the example here of talk about where people come from and their cultural identity. And this really is mainly about their nationality, which country they come from and which languages they speak, which continent that country is in. And we're not talking about anything more than that. It's a very basic level of being able to talk about where people come from. But it also then expands a little bit to talk about some of the key features of those countries, again, at a very basic level. And then some of the key features of those countries, for example, what do you like or don't like about that country, and what languages they speak. So keeping it very simple for that level, but just starting people to be able, your students to be able to talk about other cultures and people from other parts of the world. Then the third unit for this level is all about the use of English for professional reasons, which is for using English in the classroom and also about their professional development, talking about work. So the first one is sharing information in classrooms and school activities. And for level 1, we just got some basic talking about learning activities, times, and calendars. Whereas talking about learning is quite simple. It's about describing the classroom and the location of classroom objects. And then the third learning objective is about talking about jobs and workplaces. Again, it's when we go into the detail of it that you can see what this really means. So, for example, sharing basic information about times and subjects in your calendar, in your school calendar. So knowing the different times and expressions of time, the days of the week, and talking about different periods in the school calendar, national holidays, vacations, exams, and being able to find subjects in the class schedule. And then we've got some basic activities that people do when they're learning, like read out, write, compare. And then the third one is sharing that information with other people. So talking about what people are doing in their calendars. So all of this is a very basic level. It is introducing, for example, here the present continuous. There's a grammar focus there, and again with being able to tell the time. So there are a number of areas, although the focus is on being able to do things, obviously there's vocabulary here, and there are some grammar structures that need to be mastered. So the focus all the time is being able to do things in the language. Here I've given an example. So all those examples up to now were level 1, the the first semester, semester 1. Now I've given an example looking at semester 3. So this is just starting A2 level in the CFR. And what we can see here is, again, it's the same structure. We've got 3 units, personal, community, and professional, and then 3 broad, high-level learning objectives for each of those environments. And those are based on the same areas that are social practices that are in the other semesters, but it's building and developing them. So as they go up the different levels, they're building on the same areas as in the previous one. And this means that they're also recycling a lot of the language from the previous level. So they won't master everything that they have in the first level. Some of it will be introduced to them, but they will recycle it, they'll revisit it at the next level and the level after, and build up their mastery of each of those learning points. So in this case, for example, for exchange personal information, the focus here is more about exchanging information about families and their family life. And then sharing instructions describe how to play sports or games. Participating exchanges about everyday and immediate needs. For this level, it will be giving and receiving information to buy and sell things. Then with the community, that cultural diversity, we've got compare manners in different cultures. And then the second social practice, which is assess impressions and artistic expressions. For this level, it's talk about movies from different countries. And then the third social practice, reflect on environmental and social issues, which for this level is describe communities and how they change. For the professional side, we've got talking about schedules at school in much more detail, and you'll see on the actual curriculum how this is different from at level 1. And then talking about learning, describe what you have done and learned. So obviously you can see there's a present perfect being woven into that particular learning objective. And then exchange information about work, talk about what makes a good teacher. So some of the language learning around the professional side is actually reinforcing some of the training that they're getting around the pedagogy, the teaching methodology. Is giving them an opportunity to reflect on and talk about their teaching and learning, but through English. I also wanted to just show you how this looks even at semester 5, which is level 5, which is just starting B1 level on the CFR level. And this is quite a good level of English. This is preliminary level for the Cambridge exams. And so again, what we see here is we can see that, for example, sharing instructions and procedures is narrating events that happen to you. So there's a past tense and a past continuous in there. Participate in exchanges about everyday and immediate needs. For that, it's explaining procedures for using technological devices. At the community area, we've got give advice and suggestions and make requests. And then exchange information about different ways of communicating in different cultures. And then describing the plots of movies or books, or discuss responses to them. I've just realized that there is a misalignment in this slide. So the sentences on the right side are one down from the cells of the sentences on the left side. So where it says 2.1, recognize information about cultural diversity, that matches to exchange information about different ways of communicating in different cultures, B1.14. So I think you can see that there's just a mismatch. Somewhere in that slide, something has slipped. So they don't match across. You've got to go down one. So, for example, when we say share information in classrooms and school activities, that relates to planning a school event. So I hope what you're seeing from this is the way that we have started by thinking, what do they need English for? Those 3 areas of personal, community, and professional environments. And then we're trying to build, with each semester, each level, a better and richer ability to communicate in those areas, building on what they've learned in the previous level. And for each of those, we've got high-level learning objectives, but then underneath that, we've got a lot of detail in terms of what particularly is suitable for them to learn at that level, what's appropriate for them to learn at that level, the vocabulary, the grammar, and the pronunciation points for them. Now, in terms of materials, within the curriculum, we have proposed a range of different published and online materials that you can use for this. And there's a lot out there which will work for this curriculum. We have also suggested that there's quite a good match between the learning objectives in this curriculum and a course called Interchange from Cambridge University Press. And we're hoping that that will be available to you to use in your classes. In terms of assessment, at the moment, the assessment of their English language skills is organized locally. So each school takes its own exact arrangements for that. But within the curriculum, we do provide recommendations about how you should go about this. And we include recommendations for the methods you can use for assessment, the types of evidence and the performance criteria. But a lot of this is quite general, rather than tying you down to a particular assessment or test or anything like that. We try guidance so that there is consistency across the different schools, but allowing different schools and teachers to make it work for their circumstances. And just as one example of the guidance that we're providing is that in that balance of skills, when you evaluate your students at the end of a semester, we recommend that you try to get the assessment to reflect these percentages of importance, so that in your evaluation, at least 30% of that evaluation should relate to the student's ability to speak English, and 20% to writing, 20% to listening, 10% to reading, and 20% to grammar and vocabulary. And the impact of having this kind of balance in your assessment is that your students will realize that that's what matters most to them when they're learning, that it's their development of speaking skills that they have to get right, but also the other skills are also important. So trying to get a good balance in the assessment. And that's all I was going to say now. I can't see you, so I can't see if you're still awake or if you're still there, but I'm hoping that that was useful and helpful to you. What I'm going to do now is to stop sharing the screen, and then I'm here so that if there are questions which I can answer, I'll answer them, or maybe some of the questions will be for other people in the HESPE team. Okay, so I'm kind of hoping that Ruben or Julio or
Yeah. Hello again. Thank you very much, Ben. It was very, very, very useful. We have a lot of questions on the chat that we are trying to answer right now, and some other questions that cannot be answered right now are going to be answered through your state coordinator. It is very important to have a very close communication with your state coordinator, because today you are going to receive an extra document that is called Assessment and Evaluation Orientations. And this document, Assessment and Evaluation Orientation, is the official version of the HESPE that includes all that Ben has just mentioned about assessment. You'll see on this document a section that is called What is Assessed? And of course, you have to be sure that all the language skills have to be evaluated. There is a section that is called Assessment of Language, which includes the need to reflect the approach of the course, the approach of the curriculum, with the assessment too. They have to reflect the course objectives. The evaluation, the assessment, have to reflect the course objectives. And of course, since this is a communicative approach, the priority of the course is develop speaking skills. So the assessment is going to be oriented on the speaking part. That is going to be the most important part, as Ben said a few minutes ago. Also, there is a section that is called the different assessment purposes. Why are we evaluating? Why are we assessing? And it is not only to give a grade. Of course, the grades are important for the school, for the administrative part of the schools. But the purpose of the assessment is to provide useful feedback to our students. And also, the document includes the assessment instruments, which reflect how students should be assessed. It includes, guidelines about making checklists or rating scales to evaluate all different language skills. And finally, marking, grading, and feedback, which is really the most important part of the evaluation, the feedback, to make evaluation meaningful for your students, besides, of course, having a grade and a mark for their record. This document, you're going to be, your state coordinator is going to be receiving it today, so that he can share it with you. And also, we're going to send the PowerPoints, Ben PowerPoint and Julio's PowerPoint, as well as this document. And you're also, as you notice, the levels that Ben presented only cover this 6th semester, which is going to be the first stage of our program. And as you notice, the highest level right now on this curriculum is B1, B1.2, which is an intermediate level. Of course, we're going to have also materials for previous levels, that is A0, and also B2 and C1, which are going to be available on our platform. You will also receive the URL of the platform, so that you can teach those students who don't belong to this first 6 semesters, which go from A1 to B1.2. There you are going to have students that don't even reach level A1. You're going to have true beginners that belong to A0, and you're going to have online material to teach those students. And you're going to have also online material to teach advanced students from B2 to C1. And you're going to receive the platforms, all the information about this platform, where you can check all this material. The curriculum, the English curriculum, now consists only of this 6th semester, which Ben already introduced to us. And you're going to receive all this curriculum in the proper format, which is also going to be published on the platform. And for all these 6 levels, Cambridge University Press has developed 6 specific books for all these 6 semesters. And the names of these books have the same names of the curriculum. We have now Cruz Castro from Cambridge University Press, who is going to tell us a little bit about these 6 books that are going to be available. They are available for you. We just need to know exactly how many books you will need. Well, not exactly, of course, because we're going to be using these books for the next years. But we have to have an approximate numbers of students that will need, that are going to be in level A1, A2, B1, etc., so that we know how many books you will need for each state. In the assessment and evaluation orientations document, there is an explanation so that you know that after the placement test, you're going to have the groups organized according to students' level. And you're going to have these 6 levels with the proper books designed by Cambridge University Press, so that you can teach these levels, these 6 levels. And for those students who don't belong to these 6 levels, we're going to have online materials for them. I'm sorry I'm repeating this, but I want to make it absolutely clear for you. And now we're going to hear Cruz, so that he tell us a little bit about the books. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruben. My name is Cruz Castro, and I work for Cambridge University Press here in Mexico. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Ben. I haven't seen you for a long time. Hope to see you soon. We've received some questions from teachers and schools from different parts of the country. Some of them are, for instance, what will be the name of the book? And as Ben and Ruben said, the name would be the same as your courses. For instance, for the first level will be Starting Basic Communication. For the second semester will be Developing Elementary Conversations, and so on. So don't worry about the title. It will be based on the interchange series. Another question that we've got is if the book is correlated with the Common European Framework. Of course, as you saw Ben's presentations and the information that you already have, is that the material that we are developing, especially for you, is 100% correlated with the Common European Framework. We have some other questions like the support material. With that regard, what we need to know is how many teachers are going to use these books, which is especially customized for you. How many teachers and the levels. So with that information, we will be able to provide you with all the support material you need for your classes. For instance, the teachers' books, that's a very important aspect. Another support material is the listening material, and that material will be delivered via a link, so you will be able to download it from wherever you are. We had another question regarding the logistics of the delivery of the books. This is very important because we are in the position to deliver the books directly from our warehouse, from Cambridge University warehouse, to you, to your school. But what we need to do is that we need information about your schools, your address, the person in charge of the purchases, so we can register in our system, and we will be able then to invoice the books and deliver them to you. You already know the price. The price it's 180 pesos per book, per level. And but if you want to buy the books through a distributor, because maybe you there's a distributor close your school and you have a good relationship with them, the price of the book will increase 20% of the price I already said. We have another question, which is if we have enough stock. Of course, we have enough stock, but we need from you is we need to know the number of books that you're going to use by level, so we will be able to deliver the books on time. This is a very important information for us as well. And I think that's the main questions we got in the previous years from different states. We will be, as I said, sending you the information, the guidelines, how to proceed with the logistics of the purchase of the books and the delivery as well. So I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cruz Castro. Well, just before we finish this long webinar, let me show you a little bit of how the platform looks like. This platform is going to help us to cover those levels that are not covered right now with the six courses that Ben has already told us about. This is the platform, and you will find here very basic material for those students that belong to level A0, as colors and numbers, the vowels, etc. And it's a very friendly platform. You'll receive the URL so that you can navigate it and explore it. But it's been very friendly. I don't know if you can. I know not all of you can see very well.
This is the capital letter A. It makes the sound A. This is the small letter A. It makes the sound A.
But just for you to have a very general idea of what is it about, you'll find it very friendly to use it. So, and it covers from levels A0 to C1. So don't worry, you will have all the materials available for you. We're going to send it to your state coordinator, and if you have any other questions, you can always write your questions on the chat or send us an email to sevilla.degespe@gmail.com. We are going to see your questions now, and we're going to try to answer them right now or later through your state coordinator. But that will be all for now. And I hope to see you on the next webinar, which is also going to be very interesting. We're going to be talking about technology, and we're going to let you know the exact date and time. Well, thank you very much for your participation. On behalf of Julio, Ben, Cesar, Cruz, Quetzali, and Ram here, thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
¿Se acabó?
¿Ya quedó? Bueno, pues aquí está ya el webinar que les habíamos prometido con muchos temas que han estado preguntando, y supongo que a partir de este momento tendrán otras dudas que también trataremos de resolver puntualmente. Me parece que ya con la explicación, el marco que hizo el doctor Julio Leiva de estos espacios curriculares de inglés en todas las licenciaturas, y con la explicación que hizo Ben Knight del currículum que se diseñó en Cambridge, tienen ustedes ya más claridad, más certeza del trabajo que van a desarrollar a partir del 20 de agosto en sus escuelas. Todo esto, si se dan cuenta, está articulado de una u otra forma a incluso los materiales que comentó Cruz. Es decir, el diagnóstico que ya algunas escuelas han hecho de toda la matrícula o de la mayoría de la matrícula nos va a permitir definir el nivel en el que se encuentran los alumnos. Y con eso tendríamos que estar pensando, en caso que estuvieran interesados en este material que trabajó Cambridge, nos estarían haciendo favor de enviarnos el número de materiales que requieren por nivel, de acuerdo con el diagnóstico que ya han elaborado, para hacerles llegar a ustedes este material para todos los alumnos. Esto va relacionado también con la plataforma que acaban de conocer también, en el sentido en que también necesitamos licencias para poder ingresar y las necesitamos de tal forma, yo creo que estas licencias van a estar encaminadas más hacia los maestros, hacia las 646 licencias y que ustedes puedan tener este trabajo dirigido en el laboratorio de idiomas, que ese es otro de los temas que también se suman a la articulación de toda la estrategia. El currículum ya lo tenemos, lo vamos a colgar a la plataforma, en la plataforma de GESPE, pero todavía para esto tardará, yo creo que la próxima semana ya estarán. En tanto, se los vamos a enviar por correo electrónico. El material lo van a tener ustedes por correo electrónico para que puedan irlo conociendo en esta semana que todavía tienen de planeación, fortalecer estas planeaciones que ya seguramente han hecho en sus escuelas y poder comenzar en el 20 de agosto. Podemos ver las preguntas, Ron, a ver si rápidamente podemos ver las preguntas y si las podemos ir resolviendo. Y si no, de todos modos les haremos llegar el documento de preguntas y respuestas que hemos trabajado.
Como maestro con mucha experiencia. Digo, una cosa es ver inglés y la otra es volver interesante. Maestro. Y entonces, no sé si. Entonces, es que ninguna de esas tiene todas las materias, justamente por los que tienen.
¿Tienes las preguntas, Quetzal?
Porque las cosas están viendo.
El curso.
Sí, son muchas, nada más. Ahorita en términos de logística vamos a ver si podemos resolver algo. Con los materiales, el diagnóstico. Esto, aquí está. Darinel Cortés pregunta sobre los libros con anticipación. Como les comentaba, les vamos a mandar el material por correo y después tendrán ya la posibilidad de descargar los programas y los cursos de la plataforma. Ya cuando lleguen los libros, ya podrán complementar toda la información. Angélica Huerta, si enviamos la lista de alumnos, ¿cuándo llegarán los libros? Se trata de apresurarnos con el envío del listado de los alumnos porque para la impresión y el envío, pues sí estamos hablando de un par de semanas, yo creo que sí, si no me equivoco, Cruz, en eso estamos, ¿verdad? ¿Cuánto tiempo? Septiembre, mediados de septiembre es una fecha probable para poder hacer llegar los libros.
Julio quiere responder algo.
Ok. Sí. Julio Leiva quisiera responder algunas preguntas, así que vamos a darle la palabra. Julio, ¿me escuchas?
Sí, gracias, maestro César. Vi algunas preguntas de nuestros maestros de inglés sobre los materiales y cómo iniciar su trabajo a partir del día 20. Les quiero compartir, maestros, maestras, a todas, que los programas, revisan el programa de inglés que tienen ya impreso, o que ya tienen publicado en la página web, y revisan ustedes los desafíos, tanto de contenido como pedagógicos. Son contenidos que ustedes pueden abordar sin ningún problema y sin materiales. En educación superior, que es en el sistema en el que ustedes han entrado, y en todos los cursos y las licenciaturas, los perfiles de los maestros con ese nivel de especialidad les permite trabajar con propios recursos o allegarse de otros recursos. No necesariamente hay libros, como si fuera educación básica, para poder trabajar. Los libros y los materiales son apoyos para desarrollar competencias en sus estudiantes. Entonces, es muy importante que tomemos que esto en cuenta, porque en algunas escuelas probablemente no tengan el material exactamente antes. Eso no significa que no puedan iniciar, precisamente porque ustedes tienen muy buenos perfiles y el programa es solo un medio, unas líneas orientadas para desarrollar el perfil de ingreso. Tienen una ventaja, si algo hay digamos, en línea o en otros materiales, en otros lados, es justamente espacios y materiales y recursos que pueden ustedes utilizar, tanto de su propia experiencia como de lo otro. Lo que es importante contemplar es de que esta vez, en estos programas 2018, no en inglés, en todas las mallas curriculares, la bibliografía no es el fin, y la bibliografía no es del todo la base o única para iniciar un curso. Por eso ha sido importante que ustedes tengan una inmersión a la escuela normal y que puedan trabajar en academia precisamente para poder definir, entre otras cosas, materiales de apoyo.
Sí, así es, Julio. De hecho, la mayoría ya de todos los maestros han estado realizando sus planeaciones, han estado preparándose ya para iniciar el 20 de agosto, justo con esas sugerencias, que al tener ellos todos los referentes, al tener la preparación que tienen en el idioma, pues han ya estado avanzando en eso, y tanto el material físico como los apoyos en plataforma, pues justamente es eso, es un apoyo que ellos están recibiendo, pero en general ellos ya están preparados para poder comenzar el 20 de agosto. ¿Alguna otra pregunta que quisieras contestar, Julio?
No, que digamos, de alguna manera se resumen varias de las inquietudes de nuestros maestros en ello. Quisiera solo estar, si me permiten, haciéndoles saber de que en este proceso, como el resto de los maestros de los otros cursos de las licenciaturas, no estarán solos. Siempre habrá un acompañamiento desde la dirección general, sus autoridades estatales y por supuesto, aquí de GESPE. Nosotros que visitamos a muchas escuelas normales y tenemos la relación con sus directores y con sus autoridades, buscaremos la manera de que tengan siempre una comunicación estrecha. Aquí lo fundamental es que ningún maestro, ni de inglés ni de ningún otro, pueden trabajar de manera aislada. Es fundamental el trabajo en academia. Ayer estuve en algunas escuelas normales, en 2, y justamente los maestros de inglés tienen que incorporarse a la vida institucional para que puedan comprender la filosofía y el proyecto de una escuela normal, que esa armonización es la que permitirá un mejor desarrollo, no solo de sus cursos, sino también un desarrollo personal y profesional en este marco de una institución que es muy particular, que forma a los docentes que el sistema educativo de educación básica necesita. Por eso es tan importante que haya un trabajo de academia y un acercamiento constante a su coordinador de escuela normal y a por supuesto, a sus autoridades, director y subdirector académico o académica, sean fundamentales para que lleven a buen término este primer semestre y lo podamos empezar con mucho entusiasmo. Y pues con eso solo desearles mucho éxito en el inicio del semestre y pues, en comunicación con la dirección general y con el área de diseño curricular, por supuesto, la dirección que encabeza el maestro César, que es el de desarrollo profesional. Así que de mi parte sería todo. Muchas gracias por su tiempo, César. Rubén, muchas gracias. Ramsés y nuestro colega, que quizás ya no está de
Cruz y Quetzali.
Cruz y Quetzali. Gracias, Quetzali, perdón. También estoy dando preguntas.
Sí, exactamente es lo que iba a comentar. Quetzali está dando respuesta a través del chat a algunas preguntas. Es imposible darles ahorita puntualmente una por una respuesta. Vamos a revisarlas y como lo hemos hecho siempre, les mandamos las respuestas a su correo, tratando de que sean lo más puntual posible. Nada más rápidamente, la plataforma todavía no está disponible, estará en unos días ya completamente disponible para ustedes a través de la página de la DGESPE por CEVI, el centro virtual, y además de eso, todo el repositorio que pueden ya ver en la página de la DGESPE, los webinars, y habrá mucho más. Pues nada más agradecerles, como ya lo señaló el doctor Julio, a Julio Leiva, a Ben Knight, al maestro Rubén, a Ramsés, a la maestra Quetzali, al compañero Cruz, y a ustedes por estar en este webinar. Seguir en contacto, muy en contacto y de la mano con todos ustedes. Gracias por el apoyo y bueno, feliz día. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, César. Chao.